From a college dropout tinkering in a garage to the visionary who put a universe in our pockets, how did one man change the world forever? This is the story of Steve Jobs, a tale of passion, failure, and relentless pursuit of perfection. It all starts in 1955. Born in San Francisco and adopted shortly after, Steve grew up in what would become Silicon Valley. He was a curious, sometimes rebellious kid, more interested in electronics and pranks than traditional schooling. He met his future partner in crime, Steve Wozniak, in high school. Woz was the engineering genius, a wizard with circuits and code. Jobs was the visionary, the one who saw how technology could be more than just a tool, it could be a part of our lives. After a brief, restless stint at Reed College, Jobs traveled to India seeking spiritual enlightenment, a journey that deeply shaped his minimalist aesthetic and intuition-driven approach. When he returned, he reconnected with Woz. Wozniak had designed a brilliant personal computer. The Apple I. Jobs saw its potential immediately, not just for hobbyists but for everyone. So in 1976, in his parents' garage, they started Apple Computer. They sold Jobs' VW van and Woz's prize calculator to fund their dream. The Apple I was a start, but it was the Apple II that became a phenomenon. Launched in 1977, it was one of the first successful mass-produced personal computers, complete with a user-friendly design and color graphics. Apple was no longer a garage project. It was a real company, and by 1980, its IPO made Jobs a multimillionaire at just 25. But Jobs' vision was bigger. He was obsessed with making technology insanely great. He visited Xerox PARC and saw their graphical user interface, a revolutionary concept using a mouse and on-screen windows. He knew this was the future. This inspiration led to the Macintosh. Launched in 1984 with a now legendary Super Bowl ad, the Mac was beautiful, intuitive, and a huge leap forward. It introduced the world to the desktop, to fonts, to the idea that a computer could be a creative tool. However, Jobs' intense, demanding, and often abrasive management style created friction within the company he co-founded. The Mac, while groundbreaking, was expensive and its sales were slow to start. A power struggle with the CEO he had hired, John Sculley, ended with the unthinkable. In 1985, Steve Jobs was forced out of Apple. Imagine being fired from the company you poured your soul into. For many, this would have been the end. For Jobs, it was a new beginning. He later called it one of the best things that could have ever happened to him. Freed from the pressures of running a huge corporation, he founded NeXT, a company focused on creating powerful workstations for the education market. The NeXT computer was technologically advanced but commercially unsuccessful. Yet, the software it was built on, NeXT, was a masterpiece of object-oriented programming. It was the secret weapon he didn't even know he was building. At the same time, he bought a small computer graphics division from George Lucas for $10 million and renamed it Pixar. You might have heard of it. Pixar, under Jobs' guidance and the creative genius of John Lasseter, revolutionized animation. Their first feature film, Toy Story, wasn't just a hit. It changed filmmaking forever. When Pixar went public a week after Toy Story's release, Jobs, who owned the majority of the company, became a billionaire. He had lost a fortune and made an even bigger one. Meanwhile, back at Apple, things were dire. The company was bleeding money, losing market share, and had a confusing product line. By 1997, they were just weeks away from bankruptcy. In a desperate move, Apple bought NeXT for $429 million, and with it, they brought back their founder. Steve Jobs returned, initially as an interim CEO, or ICEO. His return was electric. He immediately streamlined the chaotic product line, slashing projects and focusing the company on just a few key products. He forged a surprising partnership with rival Microsoft to secure a crucial investment. He launched the iconic Think Different ad campaign, reminding the world what Apple stood for. It wasn't about processors or megabytes. It was about the people with passion who could change the world. Then the magic started. In 1998, he introduced the iMac, a colorful all-in-one computer that looked like nothing else on the market. It was a statement. Apple was back, and it was here to innovate. The I in iMac, he said, stood for Internet, Individual, Instruct, Inform, and Inspire. But the iMac was just the warm-up act. In 2001, Jobs unveiled the iPod. It wasn't the first MP3 player, but it was the first one that was great. Combined with the iTunes Store, it revolutionized the music industry and put 1,000 songs in your pocket. Apple wasn't just a computer company anymore. The next decade was a whirlwind of innovation that redefined modern life. In 2007, Jobs stood on stage and introduced a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communicator. But it wasn't three separate devices. It was one device, and he called it the iPhone. It completely changed the mobile phone industry and our relationship with technology. A few years later, in 2010, he did it again with the iPad, creating an entirely new category of device between a smartphone and a laptop. Under his leadership, Apple became the most valuable technology company in the world. From a garage to global domination, Steve Jobs' journey was a roller coaster. He was driven by an unwavering belief that technology should be simple, elegant, and empowering. He obsessed over every detail, from the curve of a corner to the font on a screen. He wasn't just selling products. He was selling a better experience, a better way of doing things. His story teaches us that failure is often a necessary detour on the road to success. That passion is the greatest fuel for innovation. And that if you believe in your vision with every fiber of your being, you just might be able to change the world.